So last week was really good. We had a really good overview of the producer money streams. I did hear some feedback. I got a lot of positive feedback. One feedback that I did receive was just a lot of information. And it's really that much when you're dealing with production. Yeah, it's very time consuming, but I'm happy to be able to share this stuff with you all. But my goal is to try to break it down. And that's why the overview is a little bit much because I just kind of went over everything really quickly. And of course, any topic, we could do an entire class on it. So today we're going to be talking more deeply about advances and fees, okay? So this is a major forms of income for producers. And so I broke it down and I talked about advances and then I talked about fees. So advance, that's one of the main things that producers hear about when it's like getting paid for doing a beat is I'm getting my advance, right? I want my advance. I want which is excellent. The producer gets his money up front, which is great. Okay. A lot of times songwriters don't even get advances. Songwriters, for the most part, will have to wait until the mechanical royalties come out, which we'll talk about more in the publishing section. But producers are lucky in that they can get an advance. So what is an advance? An advance is a prepayment of royalties, okay? And so when I say prepayment, it means, so if your advance is $1,000, this is money you're getting prior to any sales of the music, any money being made on the music. You do not get any producer royalties until this advance is recouped or earned back by the artist through sales, streams, or other income in connection with that song or album, okay? I talked about briefly in the overview section about how, let me do this poll. Well, I'll just keep it going in the background. Does the poll stay in the front for y'all, or does it move? Okay, it's not blocking your view or anything. I just want to make sure. I'll just end it. So I talked briefly about the 2 copyrights in a song, right? And I always want to reiterate this, knowing like she said this already, but I'm just going to keep saying it, and it's going to be drilled in your head that there are 2 copyrights in every song, right? You have the finished, completed song, which is your master, the master recording. You hear that all the time. And then you have the composition. The composition is the parts made up of that master, the music and the lyrics, right? So when we're talking about master, that's when we're talking about monies made through the sales, streams, and other use of the master. So when you get paid your advance, that's based on prepayment of royalties for the master, okay? So it's a very important thing. Now, I've heard people say before, well, I'll just forego the master the advance, because I don't want to have to recoup anything anyway, and then I'll get paid quicker. That can be true. However, the accounting can take a long time, okay? And even though you don't have to recoup whatever your advance is, the artist still has to recoup all the other recording costs. And we'll talk about how they recoup that as well. And so you might not get any money until a year or longer. So if you can get something up front, it doesn't hurt. And then if the artist doesn't recoup, don't worry, you don't have to pay that money back. So you can just keep that money. I always add language in a contract that is non-returnable just to make it clear. But yeah, so if you want to go ahead and get some money up front, I say get your money. Get your money. Back in the day, let me say back in the day, some years ago, before everything was so digital and quick, right? When you were doing physical albums, people knew the release date of an album like way before, right? People would be waiting on albums. It would be like I know this is coming out in 3 months. The lead time for marketing will be 3 months. And so you would know that an album is coming out. You would already know the songs that are going to be on the album. So in those cases, a lot of times the producer would be paid something called a front end of the advance, which would be the first half of the advance, well in advance, but well before the album came out, even before the producer agreement, because you would usually sign something called a producer declaration. Okay. And this is just saying you agree to give the label the right to put out the music, but all the other terms will be decided later. So then once the agreement was done, you would get your back end. So it would be a pretty streamlined process because there would be time and all of that. Now in these days, everybody knows albums will just come out and it'll be like, oh, we're putting this out at midnight. You got to get all the contracts ready. You're like, okay. So in those cases, there's no time for front end or back end or anything like that. You're pretty much getting all your money after the agreement is signed. So let's talk about when we talk about recoupment. You'll hear that term a lot in the music business, that everything has to be recouped or paid back. And I want you to understand that the artist gets a recording budget from the label. If they're signed to a label, the artist will have a budget that's set. They'll have an amount of money that they can use to do all their songs. And so the money is coming out of the artist's pocket. So when the artist has a recording budget, this is also money that the artist has to recoup on their side too. Okay, so I just want to make that clear. So it's not like the label saying, here's some money, this will come out of our side, whatever. No, this is all coming out of the artist's pocket. The artist has to pay this back out of sales, out of the artist's percentage. I just want that to be clear. So I'll talk about this a little more deeply when we get to the royalties, but even as far as the advance, that's coming out of the artist's budget. So, just keep that in mind. And that's sometimes why you just have to really be considerate with the type of budget of the artist that you're working with based on, where you are. So when you talk about recoupment, the recording costs, you all know, I'm sure you can, imagine the recording costs of the mixing, engineering fees, studio fees, etc. Right? So all this has to be paid back to the artist's account before anybody gets royalties, including the artist. Okay? And then there are negotiation terms you can do when you actually do the agreement. So for instance, you can try to decide how much of my advance is recoupable. Okay? Is it 100% recoupable, which is usually what it is, meaning the artist has to earn back 100% of that advance, but you can also negotiate that. And again, with a negotiation, it's all based on leverage and, your experience as a producer. So you can say, well, I would like my advance to be 50% recoupable. And what does that mean? Only 50% of the advance needs to be recouped before you get your royalties, which is very advantageous to you. I've even had some attorneys say, well, if we do this lower fee, because like say the artist is saying, well, we can't do 20,000, but we can do 10,000, and then the attorney say, well, we'll do 10,000 if it's a non-recoupable fee. But that is extremely rare, and you would have to be like a superstar. And I know Rico will be able to talk about that. Another issue that comes up with recoupment, which is very, very important. It seems small, and it's just like one little paragraph, but it talks about whether you're recouping on the master or you're recouping on the album. So what does that mean? That determines the amount of money that needs to be recouped before you get your royalties. So if you're recouped on the master, which is the optimal way, then that means you will get your royalties after the artist recoups all the recording costs in connection with the song only. So that's great. You can get things quicker. Now, if it's set that you're recouped on the album, this is not the best. Of course, it's preferable. Um, you could see from the artist standpoint because you want to make sure that everything is paid for before you start paying out royalties. But think about as a producer, you have to wait until all 12 or 11 or 10 songs recording costs are paid off. That can be a lot of money. So that's something that you really want to think about. Another big thing is how do we determine what your advance is going to be? Okay. There's like it's not like a union where a union would say, the musician gets this much an hour and it's a set rate of pay. It's really not. And there's really no set in stone numbers. I can just give you like some parameters, and we'll talk about that. But sometimes it can be difficult kind of figuring out when do I start talking about money, when does that come up, how do I approach it. I don't want to turn anybody off, and that's why I always suggest it's important for you to have a team of people or an imaginary team if necessary, that can talk about the topic. And it definitely is a timing thing, because you don't want to kill the vibe and just be like, I need $10,000 for this. You ain't doing nothing else, that's not realistic, and you don't want to burn any bridges, especially early on. Once you get to the point where you're like platinum selling and everybody wants your beats, they do whatever. But, as you build and build your leverage, you want to have good relationships and a good reputation. Here is the table. I want to point to it. The advance flow, and it kind of gives you a rough outline. I'm so proud of this. I did. Of the timing and the things that happen. Like number one, you'll send the beat and await confirmation. Number two, hopefully the artist decides to record to the beat, which is great. And hopefully they tell you that they did. Lord, that's the biggest thing. Hopefully that they inform you that they recorded to the beat. So then the song is done, and that's dope. But then you have to wait and see, okay, did the song make the project? Don't know. So once you wait from then they'll tell you if it's accepted. And then it's like, oh, great news, you made the album. Okay, so your song is on the album. Then your representative, someone like Rico, would then negotiate the top line deal terms. So like, this is how much the track is, this is the royalty rate. And then they would bring the attorneys in, let the attorneys know what the terms are agreed to, and then they will negotiate the agreement. The negotiation could take a while, depending on the responsiveness of the attorney. So when I'm doing an agreement, it just really depends on the attorneys. I've had situations where it took over a year just to do a contract. Seriously. And then, so once that's done and everybody's like, okay, we got the final draft of the agreement, then everybody has to sign it. So my producer client I'll get him to e-sign, him or her to e-sign, and then we send it to them to sign. And we call that, when one person signs, we call it partially executed. And once everyone signs, we call that fully executed agreement, right? So let's talk about getting the full agreement. There are many agreements where I don't have the fully signed agreement. It can take months. And there are some people now, I think due to the long amount of time it takes for the artist to sign these agreements, sometimes will just pay you prior to it being fully executed. But there are a few labels that are very strict and we're not paying anything until everything is fully signed, which can be very frustrating. So once the agreement is finally signed, Then we'll send the invoices. Then the payment has to be processed. Now, if you are not yet set up as a vendor, let's just use Universal as an example. With Uniport system, which is like, I believe that was made in like 1920, 1950. It takes a long time to set you up as a vendor. So it's just it can be a really long process. So I just want you to kind of know that you all that have been there will know, like from you sending the beat to actually getting paid. I mean, it could be a year or two. Negotiation. So I love negotiation. It's fun because I'm like, you're meeting, it's like finding that sweet spot where you both meet in the middle because everybody wants something and you're finding a place where you can, both be happy and get what you want. So I have listed some factors. It's always best to have a third party negotiate for you, preferably, or act like you're an independent third party, because you just can't go maybe as hard as you would want to when it's you. Um, you know, but the things you want to look at are your stature, right? How many placements you've had, and they'll just tell you like, okay, well, if this is your first one, where you are. How much you received previously, you want to think about that. You want to think about the stature of the artist. Is the artist an independent artist, major artist? Do they have a large following? You want to look at all of those. You want to look at your previous relationship with that artist, like what you've made with them prior to, if you did other songs with them, right? Because you don't want a situation where you're just coming off crazy. And last time you did it for 1,000, and now you ask for 10,000. That doesn't make sense. Another thing is you want to look at, kind of try to figure out their budget, what other producers they're working with, what are the release plans as an independent major, what are they doing for it, what kind of rights do they want, right? Exclusive, non-exclusive, license, promo, what do they want? Will the artist pay you royalties? Very important, because if they're not going to pay you, then you may ask for more. You just want to know that. And the number of beats of yours they're using. Maybe if they decide to use 5, you can go a little bit down on your per beat price because you're going to get more. So these are just things you just want to think about when you're coming to the pricing, because pricing is one of the biggest issues for entrepreneurs. I am telling you, even when I'm starting my firm, I was just like, it's hard to determine, and you don't want to overprice, but you don't want to underprice. You just want to find that sweet spot. So, you really want to take that in consideration and talk to your peers about that. An important question that I say that you should ask, you may be a producer where you are happy, you have a fee that you set, let's just say $2,500, that's your fee. That's what you get right now. You're happy with that. Then when they ask you, you go, okay, $2,500, that's my fee. Then I'm set, okay? But if you're not as set and maybe not sure, a good question I like to ask, what's your budget? What's your budget? Okay? They're going to undercut you when you ask that question, but it will give you an idea of where they are. I don't want you to undercut yourself. Okay? So that's just an important question I like to ask. And then after that, then you can go up from there. Not crazy, but go up. So I wanted to, just because I feel like this information is not out there, I wanted to share, it's so generalized, but it's like a breakdown from my experience of what producers would get, a range of what producers would get based on their skill level. And I mean, I literally made this up, but I have producer skill level designations, beginning producer, 0 to 10 placements, mid-level, 11 to 20, and then expert, 21 to infinite, but infinite placements. And then a Grammy or platinum records can move you from one level to another pretty quickly. So I want to show you, I'm going to screen share again, this chart, my little table I made. All right. So I just, like I said, I mean, this is very general. It doesn't mean this is for, what happened for everybody. But I broke down the table as far as major artists, um, big budget artists, small budget artists. And so for major artists, for a beginning producer, with a big artist with a big budget, for instance, let's say like 21 Savage or Little Baby, something like that. Artist was some dough. So for them, I would say probably between 5 to 7,500. Mid-level 10 to 20, expert 25 and up. Okay. For small budget, you're looking at 1,000 to 3,500, mid-level 5,000 to 15,000, expert 20 to 50. The expert is pretty much going to be, because the expert is going to demand his fee. Like when we talk to Rico, he'll tell you all about that. So for them, once you're at that level, it's like, shoot, I don't care what kind of budget you have. This is my price, and you got to pay me. Oh, I could just flip the camera. Sorry. Y'all, this is on Zoom. If you were on Zoom, you'd be able to see it. So this is a table I did. Now, again, this is for an actual release. This isn't for a mixtape. Now, when people put out mixtapes, they like to try to pay you less. But this is, let's just say this is based on an album. Then for indie artists, you can see how it can go pretty far down the fees. I have indie artists as a medium budget, small budget, and no budget at all. Okay. And so there you can kind of see, I'm not going to go through each number, but if you get the point, you can see these kind of ranges and numbers so you have an idea. And so when I say swap, a swap is a situation where say an artist doesn't have any money, you want to work with them, and they'll provide you with a verse or another, a full song on one of your beats that you could put out. And so say as a producer, you're putting out your whole project and you want to have artists on the songs, that's another good way. You can put a whole project together through swaps with other artists. And when I tell you, as far as like major artists working together and doing features, in a lot of cases, it's a lot of swaps going on because they're fans of each other. So they're like, well, I'll waive my fee, you waive your fee, we'll both do a song for each other. Okay? So that's just to give you an idea so you know. Briefly, when I talk about advances, then I'm going to start moving a little bit quicker, are third-party royalty advances. So that's money that these companies will pay you in advance based on the pipeline of royalties or what your song is worth. And I thought this was real interesting, and I just want to share this with y'all. I found out about this company today called the Music Fund, and I'm going to share my screen with y'all in a minute. But they actually will give you, there's another one I knew about called Sound Royalties, and there's another one I knew about called I don't even know how to say the name. It's called like Vest, I think, something like that. And that what they would do, like I actually had a situation where I had to, do some kind of collecting from them, but they will allow fans to bid on the ability to get a percentage of royalties, and they'll pay money up front. The rights holder, whether it's an artist or a producer, will get that money, and then the fans have the right to collect the royalties on the back end. It's crazy, but I mean, if you have a hot song, you need some money up front. But I saw this one today called the Music Fund, and they had this really interesting thing I wanted to show y'all. Okay, here they're like, find out what they'll pay you for your streams. You keep 100% of your copyright, but just look at this. It says find out how much their tracks are worth. So you could literally, oh, let me turn this around. So you could literally like click on Little Baby and it'll tell you like 40% royalties, 28 million. Like Little Uzi Vert, 21 million for 40%, 36 track. I just thought that was so interesting. Anyway, I'm like, I wonder if that's actually real. I don't know. But anyway, they're allowing, other, like, artists to sign up. If you get a placement, you need some money, like, because like I said, the royalties can take a long time. These companies know that. So they're like, look, we know the royalties are coming. We have the money. We can just give you the money up front. But that's just, I just wanted to share that with y'all real quick. Now we're getting into fees. So fees are, like crowdfunding, yeah. So fees are just like a payment of money that you'll get. It's nothing guaranteed on the back end or anything. It's just a payment that you'll get. And I have a list of, there's a lot of ways to make money. Like, wow. But anyway, the first one, buyout fee, I'm going to go over the list real quick and I'll see what we can get to. I'll just pick and choose. I'm not going to go through each one. And then in the actual handout, they're all like broken down. But the buyout fee, work for hire, I have to mention that. If at all, please don't do this. Like what that means, if anyone ever says, I just want to do a buyout, or I just want to do a work for hire on your beat, that means they want to buy all the rights to your beat. So that means you own nothing else in connection with that beat. For that fee, in exchange for that fee, you're assigning 100% of your copyright to them, and that's it. So that money that you get is all you're going to see, and it's all you can do. So just beware for that. I signed one of those when I wrote and performed on a song for $500. I didn't know what I was signing, and I'm still sick to this day for that. But anyway, so watch out for those. That they would just pay you a fee for that. Master use fee. If you, as a producer, you can still get opportunities to have your music in video games, shows, whatever, right? And so in that case, you own the master. Remember we talked about the 2 copyrights. You own the master. So whoever wants to use your song or beat in their work has to pay you, has to do a master use license with you and pay you a fee, a master use fee. You just always want to make sure it's MFN. What does MFN mean? Most favored nations, meaning that no one else is getting paid more than you on that song. Okay. Leasing and selling beats, I'm not going to go that deep into that. All those marketplaces, but there are producers that are doing really well on those. They, of course, based on your marketing, etc. But I know people that made like livings off of those sites. Just as a note, I just want to make sure that you actually, know what the terms are in those situations, because and maybe have your own agreement when you're dealing with those situations, because you have to beware of leases, non-exclusive things, and just put a time limit on it so you know that at some point it will expire. And then if something happens where someone wants the exclusive rights, you're not running into a problem with it. Collabs. How many of y'all in here do collabs? Can you anybody here do collabs? Yes. Okay. I literally yes. Okay. I literally learned about collabs. Yes. Oh wow. Okay. So for me, when I first I saw a collab, I'm like, oh yeah, I love collab with artists. I collab with different producers. I just collab. Like we used to use the term as just like general, like working with and creating with. But now I think it's turned into a more of a technical term, where you're actually selling a collab. And I was just like, what is this? I saw a post like collabs for, $200. Like, what is this? So anyway, I've like did my research and found out what it was, and it's really constantly going on. Yeah, collab for beats, where you actually, like a producer with some clout, can sell collabs. People will send them, well, people will purchase it, send them the skeleton or whatever, the beats and the stems and all that. The producer that sells them will, whip it up, make it dope, and then finish the beat. Um, and so it is so interesting. And then once the beat is completed, then, it could get placed, or, you can have a beat with this other person that you could shop. So, and it's really dope, but I just want to make sure that, you have those rights clear, when you do those, yeah, because like with hooks and all that. But I just want to make sure you're clear on the rights. And if you do collabs, make sure you have a contract, like for sure, because I've been through situations with clients who did loops and certain beats and this and that, and they tend to always forget about you, um, sometimes. And so I'm coming in like, hey, he did the whole melody of the song, so they might just send you the drums and then you do the melody, whatever. So, right, splits, yeah, so that would control the publishing side, but you need to talk about advances and royalties and all of that. So anyway, just keep that in mind. So you got collabs, that's another way to make money. Sample packs, people selling those. I brought up Illmind in because Illmind hustle. But he has that his own website called Black Kits. And so he has, loops and drum kits and all that. I just think it's really interesting, because I put in here about how, so you think, okay, well, I'm gonna get this drum kit, I'm gonna use it, whatever. I paid them for the drum kit. Yeah. And as long as you're doing the independent release, if you look in the fine print of the website, yeah, fine, that's it. But if it's a major release, or the minor release ends up doing 1 million or more streams, then you have to clear the sample with him, and he gets 50-50 of any advance, any royalty, or publishing. What? I'm like, that is, so we actually ran into that situation with a producer who would use the Illmind beat kit, drum kit, and Illmind got 50% of everything and credit as a co-producer. So crazy. Membership fees, you can start a club. That's Illmind did that too, so I keep bringing him up. He has his platinum club, and $19.99 a month. He's giving you inspiration, motivation, tools, building a community, all that. So that's another way. Education, teach share the wealth of knowledge that you have. You might be something that you're really good at. Maybe you're really good at getting money for collabs, or you're really good at, making drum kits, or something that you're really good at doing. And you can provide that as a service to others. Is it beneficial to join a club? I mean, it may be, because he says he listens to everybody's music and gives you tips, and then you can communicate with others. I mean, it's all about building a community. So perhaps if you're kind of in the sound of what he does and you're a fan. The last thing I want to talk about, is the content, YouTube content ID, right? It's very, very important for producers to do the content ID program, because especially if you have your beats like out there like that, because artists will grab beats. I've not been known to do that in my day. But that way, if say I grabbed your beat and did a song on it, it's Illmind Platinum, what's it called? Illmind Platinum Club. But anyway, so if I grabbed your beat and then I put it up on YouTube with a lyric video, then if you have a content ID set up, then it will automatically find that my song that I did over your beat. And then you can choose what you want to do. You can block the video or you can monetize the video, put an ad on it, and make money off of it. So I think that's really important with the content ID. Only thing with content ID, you can't really get your own content ID um, until you have like a whole lot of songs, like a large number. I think like over 100. And so they actually screen you. So yeah, so what you would want to do is go through someone that actually has YouTube monetization and content ID set up. I know Airbit has it, and another company called Create Music Group does it. So yeah, you're gonna have to go through. Yeah, for sure. You're gonna have to go through, and you can just look at different companies too that do it. But I just think that's an important thing to make sure you do, especially as a producer, because people will grab your music like quick and just put something out. So with that said, y'all put some questions in here. I'm about to bring Rico live. How you doing today, Rico?
Life is good. And you?
Yes, yeah. Oh, this is why I was going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Life is good. That's one of my favorite statements in these crazy times right now.
Yep.
It is something else. But you hanging in there?
Oh yeah. Reading a lot of outside in the yard, you know.
You're
Um,
not one of the wild ones?
nah. I mean, I may get in my car and ride around just to see. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I wanted to read your bio.
Nah, we don't have to do that.
We don't have to do that?
Nah, let's just get into it.
Let's get into it. Okay. So tell me first, how did you get into the music business? Like, what brought you in?
I was actually born into the music business like a lot of African American kids. My family, I grew up in the church, so I sang in the choir. My uncle,
What?
yeah. You see that stuff it didn't make it.
See?
uh, I then my uncles were DJs, so my mom played music around the house. My grandmother was all holy roly, so it was only gospel music in her house. But my uncles were DJs, so it was like Rick James, Prince, the time.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but my introduction to the music business actually was after I graduated from Morehouse. I wanted to work, and I got a job at Peppermint Music, and so I was at the retail level, but it let me know that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Mm.
And they're like reading the liner notes and meeting artists for in stores and meet and greets and reading Billboard magazines. It was just like the start.
Okay. And then, so did you start out like after you like how did you become like a manager? Like what did you do to get there? What was the path?
So actually, at the record store, I was working at Peppermint Music. So we had these stores in all the urban centers, and then like a lot of influential people would come through. One of the guys I met was Block Russell Spencer. He had this group, Boys in the Hood. It was Jeezy, Young Jeezy, Jody Breeze, Duke, and Big Gee, and he wanted me to work with them. So that was my introduction, like working with Boys in the Hood, actually managing them, co-managing
Okay.
him. It was like, cause we had did some stuff with Big E, and he liked what I was doing, and it was like, hey, look, I want you to manage this group I'm working with, and that was like, boom, I'm in it.
Okay. And then it seemed like, and tell me if I'm wrong, you kind of forayed into working with a lot of producers.
Yeah,
How did you kind of, and what made you make that change of direction into working more with producers?
yeah. So basically, I did Boys in the Hood, then Young Jock, then Gorilla Zoe, and then my hair started falling out. I said, oh, I better do something that so so I was like, I don't know if the artists, they take a lot out of me. So I was like, let me see how the producers do. And then so Producers have been really good for me, but I wanted to do something different, and so I started looking at producers, and that was my foray into working with producers. Actually, it was Sonny Digital was my the first client.
Okay, okay. And so how long did you work with him? Were you working with him before he blew up, or did you kind of, how did that work with y'all?
Yeah, he had turned 18, but Racks on Racks he had did the song, but it wasn't out. So
Mm, okay.
So we immediately, he was already in a production deal. Some of the stuff that you mentioned, like some business wasn't like it should have been, but we made the best out of the situation. So we got his splits corrected, even though he didn't get a large advance on Racks. I think it was $300, but that song went on because we got his royalty straight set up and his publishing split set up. He grossed over six figures off that song.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that can, that kind of goes into what we're talking about. We're talking about actual advances,
Yeah.
right? So he did, the song for 300 in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And that was him. What do you think? Like he just didn't know, right?
Yeah,
Like how much he should
independent.
charge or yeah.
YC was an independent artist. Future was basically like coming up independent artist. So it was like
Mm-hmm.
Sonny was an independent producer. Everybody was coming up together. So
Right, right.
the guy came up and gave him the money. Once they got a deal, like a major deal, we could have reneged and been like, look, it's a major label. Or we could have put something in the paperwork, but I wasn't there when he signed it. Had like, hey, look, if it's indie, this is the price, but if it gets picked up by a major, it gets upstream to this price. But we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It was already done before I got there. So, and we didn't. I was always a person of my word. Like if I tell you this is what we're doing it. And he had already signed it, so I was like, just honor your word.
Mm-hmm.
So he did, but I mean, he's benefited greatly from it.
Right, right. So I like, I think that's an important deal point that you brought up, the whole upstream thing.
Yeah,
So, can you explain just maybe in a little more detail,
yeah.
what that means and like how that would be as a part of a deal?
Yeah, so if you're a producer and you're working with independent artists, there's an independent fee. Most independent producers, they don't have marketing and promotion, album recording budgets or funds. It's basically their money that they're working with or the investor. So the funds may be limited. So you may say, hey, look, we'll do it for this amount, but if it gets picked up by a major label, one of the three majors or a major independent, then we need more money because there's going to be more money to access. So if it gets picked up, you can say, hey, look, here's my indie price and here's my major price. You can have it. You can be flexible too. But I always tell the producer, don't get caught up in the advance. You won't get rich off advance. It'll pay a couple of bills, but the way you get wealthy and rich is gonna be the royalties. If you got to have hits though. So like, and I've seen producers actually miss albums because they say, hey, look, the fee, my advance, so I wanted more money. They don't want to pay it. So like you miss a album that went on to sell like millions of copies because you didn't like say, hey, look, I'll take a little less or negotiate and try to come and meet in the middle. You don't want to be missing placements because the advance is low. Like you said, if the advance is low, maybe we get some other things, a swap, or maybe we get, like you said, a portion of the song is recoupable, quicker or something like that. You can always work it out, but you don't want to just leave money on the table.
So what tip would you give, like you just gave an important one, about like when you're negotiating, like as a manager, when does this conversation come up for you? When so somebody was in the studio, like say Sonny or another client was in the studio with an artist,
Mhm.
and they did a song. What is the timeline for you when you would come in and start saying, well, let's negotiate these deal terms?
Yeah, when the A&R or the manager or the artist themselves call me or text me or email me and say, hey, look, we like this song, we want to use it, and then we know what our baseline is, but I generally never speak the baseline because I want to see what the budget is. So like I learned that sometimes you can shoot yourself in the foot. You could be like, hey, look, my fee is 2,500. I know you mentioned, but they might have been like, hey, look, we were gonna do budget. We had 5,000, but you done already sold yourself short.
Yeah.
I always like to listen. I always have a number of what I want in my head, and if
Mhm.
it's lower than that number, then I say, no, this is the number. But if it's higher, I say, yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was thinking 10,000, knowing in my mind that was already 7,500 that I wanted.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Um, I wanted to move to some questions too. Um, okay, somebody asked, when would I need a manager? A producer asked that question.
Yeah, I say you need a manager when you have something to manage. So I know it sounds simple, but it's not like so you could I actually like artists, I would tell you like never just sign agreements, even if it's from a manager, without like having legal representation. So you actually need a lawyer first because the lawyer would negotiate the management contract. But once you'll know in it because the timing, you'll start feeling like, hey, look, this influx is things I can't handle. I'm getting offers, I'm getting deals, I'm getting emails, and I can't handle the flow. But you should know, always be cognizant of what's going on with your business because at the end of the day, it's not the manager's business. He's your manager, but you're the client, and it's your business. So you need to be have tabs on like, hey, look, what is my manager doing? What is my lawyer doing? Because managers and lawyers can actually kill deals too. So at some point, the producer has to step in and say, "Hey, look, nah, I really want this one was for my boy. You can't mess this up. Because I've seen situations where the legal team and the manager messed up a relationship between producers because the producer didn't step in and say, "Hey, look, no, this is my boy. Hey, look, sorry, they didn't understand what was going on. Now we're gonna get that fixed."
Mm-hmm.
Simple misunderstanding led to a breakup in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you'll know though, you'll have the feeling, you'll know, like, look, hey, maybe these labels want to sign me to sign this contract, or this artist or this producer wants to buy this beat, or this publishing company wants to, you know, sign me, and I don't know. And then you can, hey, look, I may need someone to help me navigate through this.
Okay. Um, so someone asked the question of what do you do? What does the manager actually do?
Hey, I sit back and collect commissions. Nah, nah, nah. I actually manager. It depends, like what the client is, who the client is, and I sit down with each client because each client is different. So, say if a client is saying, "Hey, look, I just want to streamline my operations. I don't want to be like having to handle the business and handle the creative side, the administrative and the creative side." So we'll come in and we'll come up with a plan. Like, do you want to build out your brand, and what does that consist of? For example, we made like when I met with Quay Global, who's doing a lot of little baby stuff. He was like, "Look, I want to take this to the next level. I want to do more stuff. I want to start DJing." So we got him start getting him DJ gigs. He was like, "I want to build out my producer team. I want to like get my contracts. Like a lot of stuff just wasn't in order, like those sound exchange LODs, which is
Mm,
important. Like if they're not signed, guess who's not getting paid? So and we've just started ramping it up. We're just getting started, but I can already see the difference. Just hey, look, I want to be a little more visual, just things like that.
mhm.
So
So I always say that when with your manager, it's like a marriage.
mm,
I think it's very, very important. It's so relationship based because it's
yep,
like working, hand in hand with this
yep,
person. And you're advising them and counseling them, someone that you can help make decisions, with, and that can
right,
tell you things like, what can I expect to make from this, right? From your experience doing that.
yep,
And I know Sonny Digital is very outspoken about his business.
yep.
And I wanted to just ask you if you could tell me some of the things that he does that you feel like are progressive in his business practice as a producer.
Yeah, he's always been an advocate for producers, like this whole idea of the producer union, or like producers getting in like bad deals, or producers not getting paid in a timely manner from our record labels. So and Sonny's just a great like advocate, but he's also a connector of people. So like the first time I met the Migos, the first time I met like Q, Metro Boom, it was all at Sonny's apartment. Like so most of my clients came from Sonny Digital. So he was on McConan, he was on K Camp, he was on all these guys early. So he's like that, kind of like that connector, like that glue that keeps things going. So but yeah, he's always been a proponent and an advocate for the producers. So, and the thing about it is like he uses his leverage and his voice to like speak out on things. You know, so many people are afraid to have a voice these days. You know, they don't have a backbone. They just go with the wind. But it's good to see someone that says, "Look, no, that's not right," you know, and it's not right. And I actually like it because you want to have people that actually stand up, even though it may not be the most popular choice or the popular voice. But hey, look, when some of our greats were speaking up against injustices, it wasn't like they were the most popular voice in the room, you know? And I'm not saying he's like Dr. King or Malcolm X, but
He the Malcolm X of the music business.
yeah, but somebody has to speak up, you know?
I mean, you know, because it's refreshing for me because I attend these conferences and you know things like that, and I feel like there's never everything is just acceptance of how things are,
Mhm.
and no one talks about you know, like it doesn't give much light to what needs to be changed and what are the problems because there are so many. And I
Yeah,
think there's a lot of room for positive change in the music business for sure. So I definitely appreciate that. And
yeah.
as far as that producer union, is where is he with that, the producer union?
I'll let Sonny speak on that, but there's definitely some talk and
So it's kind of in progress or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. So
Okay.
it's an ongoing conversation, you know, and we've had conversations and people are really kicking the tires on it.
Okay, awesome.
We talked to some labels and we talked to like some other organizations that definitely want to help and kick in, you know,
Hmm.
expand the conversation.
Okay, awesome. So I have another question. Um, as an up and coming manager, how do you know you're ready to start?
Um, I don't know if you'll ever be ready until you just start. You know what I'm saying? I said just do it. And I tell up and coming producers, your beats do you no good on your computer. Of course, from a legal perspective, do what you have to do to make sure you're protected. But I say when you're up and coming, do everything until you can only do the stuff you want to do. You know, like so when you're up and coming, like hey, maybe I need to go to the session. Maybe I need to be sending out these beats here. I need to be on every email. One thing I liked about the uh, the um, the international market. I represent some international producers that they actually, and I talked about this on another call. It's like they don't have the advantage of proximity. Sometimes if you're in a city like Atlanta, you may get like a little laid back because you have access to these artists. But imagine you're in Bulgaria or you're in Germany or you're in Budapest, Hungary, like iBeatz was who did the Drake song. So you don't have that advantage of proximity. So you're basically working with the internet and your Wi-Fi service. So you're sending out, you're taking every shot. So I think Kobe or someone said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So
Mm.
people only see like the placements, but they don't know how many emails it took to get that placement, you know, or how many sessions or how many text messages, you know. So
Right.
I say you got to get out there. You know, you can start from your corner. You don't have to reach out to the next biggest thing. It would be great. I loved how Shorty Red and Jeezy came up, and like how D Rich and all those guys came up. I love how Ti and Toomp came up. You know, and if we could bring it up even further, you know how I guess like Mike Will and Future Metro, you know, and Young Thug and Metro and 21. Like when you come up together, it's like there's no question like, hey, can I make the album or can you get this beat? Because you already have that relationship, you know.
Right. That's key. That's
Yeah,
key for a producer to, I mean, because that's like, I mean, gold when you have, as a producer, when you have an artist that you just vibe with and y'all just,
exactly. And
yeah.
you can make the relationship, and the relationship is dependent on you. It's not an A&R, it's not a manager. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you're calling, you're texting the artist directly because it's your relationship and your connection.
For sure. All right. Let me see if I had any other questions. Okay. Somebody asked, what's the difference between a business manager and they said producer manager, but I would say personal manager, which
Yeah.
is you are.
Yeah, so a business manager can handle your business like just strictly whether it's like, hey, look, he's helping you with financial choices, he's paying you, setting up your bills, paying make sure money's being collected and coming in and going out. A manager, like a producer manager, personal manager, talent manager. like I am. I'm not paying your personal bills. You know, I don't have access to your login to pay your Wi-Fi bills or whatever. I'm not doing none of that. I'm not like taking money to your baby mama, you know, whatever wires, you know, set up, you know, whatever it is. I don't know. So like business manager strictly only handles your business, and generally business managers, I think it's like 2.5 to 5% if it's somewhere in that range. But a talent manager generally makes commissions anywhere from like 10 to 15% of income, the gross and net, depending on how you negotiate it. Of course, you know the manager would try to get more. The artist is gonna try to give you less. But I look at the overall producer as a brand. So I'm helping if you need a booking agent, if you're looking at deals, I consult on those deals. I'm connecting dots for like clients. I actually send out beats for my clients too, you know, and just making those connections to help take my clients to the next level.
Okay. So just real quick, when you send the beats, is there a special software you use or anything, or are you just
No,
email?
I want them to use them. I want them to use them because I just wake up. I want it to happen where if they use it and they didn't, you know, do the proper things, I know I'm gonna definitely get paid then. You know, but, you know, we got guys that handle all that stuff. But no, and most of I'm not sending unsolicited emails first of all. So I'm dealing directly with talent managers, directly with A&Rs who I built a relationship with over years. You know, I'm
Mm.
dealing with artists directly sometimes. And I'm so it's just the whole mix of people and basically my Rolodex that, like I said, I've been working on for like 20 plus years.
Hmm.
Not
Okay.
quite 20 years, but a long time.
Go ahead. No,
Yeah.
just. um. Okay. So this is a good question. Would you recommend um someone who doesn't have many established connections in the industry to be a manager, or should you build your connections first? Um, so that's like saying having a manager. I guess that's asking just having a manager that is not that connected
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, there are like several things you should look for in a manager. Uh, and this will kind of answer your question, but you want to look for someone who has, first and foremost, passion, because I believe that passion supersedes like some of the other skills. So I would rather have one passionate person that really believes in me than a team of like five people who are just like slow footing it around and like, oh, I don't know. They could be like the top guys, but if they don't believe in you, it's like, what's the point? You know, so give me one guy who's gonna go hard for me, who's passionate, who loves me. They may not know everything, but we can figure out like the other stuff. Like, but you do want to have someone who has like leadership ability. So like if you walk into a room, someone who is an adult in the room, someone who can like gather a conversation and speak in a manner that, hey, look, exudes leadership. You want to look for someone who has relationships and connections. So you can make those calls and say, hey, look, um, we're in such and such, and we just want to go by such and such studio, or go by this label to see if who's working, or go by this studio. You know, you want to have someone who can make those calls and those emails. You want to look for someone who has. Your manager should not be your finance. He's not your bank, but you should look for someone who has access to capital. You know, so even if like he's not your, like I say, he's not your bank, but he or she may know someone who's like they may know someone at BMI or ASCAP or CSEC to say, hey, look, let's go try to get you in advance. You know, it'd be like, hey, look, man, I'm about to have a baby, but I got this song that's just got placed with Future. Can I try to? I want to hold out, but I need a car. I need to move out. My girl not trying to hear this. Stay with my mom. Can I get a small can I get a small publishing deal? Can I do a deal? You know, and then you need someone who can make those emails and calls. Say, hey, look, I got this client. This is what he or she has going on. Can we access some of those funds? You know, or some of the other funds opportunities that you mentioned earlier too. And there's a couple other things, but those just stand out on the from the top. You know, and I want someone who's like likable too. Like people do things for people that they like versus people who if they don't like your manager or your team, It
Hmm.
works when you're in a position of leverage, when you're like the top dog, but you're not gonna always be the top dog. The sword is not gonna always be the sharpest. There's always that next new that Zion Williams is coming up and looking at Kobe like, boy, I'm on your butt. You know that, right? And he don't say but, you know. So so you want to be able to be like, I mean, I was looking at the Michael Jordan special and I was like, man, I don't know if I want to be Mike, because all the stuff he went through and what he took, I'm not that's not my personality type, so I like it and I want success, but success like at what cost? If it costs you how much, you have to weigh those.
Hmm. True, true. And success is so relative,
Exactly.
because right now, myself and everybody that's watching, I'm sure looks at you like you're successful already.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, you got a record behind you,
Hey, hey, hey.
and that's just one.
Yeah.
So, you've been doing your thing for a long time, so that's success, right? So I
Thank
think it's very relative.
you. Yep.
Um, I'm gonna just do like one or two more questions. I know we're
Okay.
running over
Cool.
time. Um,
And I gotta get my was it the fans only page before we leave?
what?
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Man, y'all niggas crazy. Real. Somebody asked, somebody asked, what's the best amount or number of beats per email to send when you
I
send?
would say a sweet spot. Like producers have to learn how to like truncate their beats and make them so you can send like I say 5 to 7 is like the sweet spot, So and you want because why I say that because you don't want to. In my personal opinion, I know artists that listen. Actually, we use this. This is driving like everything. These devices right here, these cell phones, these smartphones. So a lot of producers actually listen to their music. I mean, artists when you send the beats, they listen to them on the phone to see if they like the beat. So they might actually pull up the email. But if you send a link, I mean, you can still download it, but it's extra hoops. So I try to say don't make them jump through hula hoops or jump through hoops. Like if you're sending files, I get it, the Pro Tools, but excuse me, my best success is between 5 to 7, and they can listen, excuse me, directly on their phone,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
as attachments versus like a link.
Okay. I think that's all our questions.
Cool.
Anybody else have any questions real quick? You got 1 minute. All right. But yeah, I really appreciate your time and you coming and talking to people about, what you do
Yep.
um in this music business and, continuing to build and, just all the best to you.
Thank
And
you.
I know I'm sure I'll talk to you soon on some other deals.
Yep, yep, yep. We're on emails now. Let's
So
get it.
yeah, you take care. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All
All right.
right, we go.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace. Thanks everyone. Brooks Rico. Email. I'm not email, but Instagram and Twitter at Brooks Rico. Yep.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.